Hi everyone, I'm here to do a reading from my new book, Earth and Sky. For those who don't know, Earth and Sky is about a 17-year-old girl named Skylar who discovers that aliens have been experimenting on Earth by using time travel technology to go into the past, manipulate events, and see how that affects the present without really caring how Earthlings might feel about that. She meets up with an alien rebel named Wynn and ends up joining him in a fight to stop this from happening. I'm going to read a short section from toward the beginning of the book. This is shortly after Skylar has started talking to Wynn, and he's just told her this whole story about aliens and time travel and stuff, and she's understandably a little skeptical, and he's going to offer to show her some proof now. He stands up and sets his satchel on the table. I'll show you. You pick the time and place. If you could go anywhere, any time before now, where would you go? Right. This is a joke. My thoughts slip back to last night's reading. Sure, I say. Why not? Let's visit the Roman Colosseum. First century AD, when there are games on. Are you going to pull it out of that bag? You could say that, he says as he opens the satchel. We travel in this. He pulls out that bundle of shimmery, not quite fabric that fascinated me earlier and unfurls it. At a press of his fingers, there's a mechanical click, and a line splits down the middle so he can open it like an immense cape. Anywhere, anywhen, he says, a reverential tenderness in his tone and his grip on the cloth. You're going to have to come inside, of course. We're going to travel through time in a shiny tablecloth. This is the craziest part yet. I shake my head, a laugh sputtering out. Wynn squares his shoulders. With a practiced snap of his wrists, he whirls the cloth around him. For an instant, I'm watching his form disappear amid the folds of dark fabric. Then, suddenly, I can't see him or the cloth at all. My head whips around. The rooftop is empty except for the vacant tables and me. The wind teases my hair. Streetlights gleam in the distance. Where the hell did he go? I'm heading over to check the fire escape when Wynn's voice emerges from the air where he was standing before. I'm right here. The air parts and the surface of the cloth shimmers back into sight. Only it doesn't look like a cape now, more like a narrow arch-top tent, a couple feet taller than Wynn and maybe 4 wide. Wynn's peering out at me between the flaps of its entrance, his mouth curved into a crooked grin as if daring me to try and explain this away. I really don't have any rational way of explaining that. I blink and the scene before me doesn't change. If this is crazy, then I'm crazy too. Wynn tilts his head. Are you going to come and get your proof or not? My heart thuds. I could walk away and never stop wondering. Or I could take a leap. If his proof doesn't hold up, well, I'll know for sure none of this was true. I step toward Wynn. He eases back to make room for me. I hesitate and then push myself onward. The flap flutters down after I duck inside the sort of tent, but it doesn't block the light. The pale outlines of the rooftop outside and the buildings beyond it swim on the inner walls. Beside me, Wynn taps the fabric. It hums, and a wavering display lights up, presenting a series of dancing characters. So this thing is going to fly us through space and time? Somehow it sounds even more absurd when I say it out loud. Wynn skims through the data with his fingers hovering an inch from the display, his face intent in the reflected glow. It's more like bouncing, he says. That last ball I said the time field is like? We hit the inner surface and come back down. The field does most of the work. With a satisfied sound, he pats the display with his palm. It vanishes. This cloth's an older model, he says. The traveling's not quite as smooth as... The rest of his sentence is cut off by a lurch. The shapes on the walls blur, and my stomach jolts into my throat. Rushing up and around, spinning and shuddering as if we're trapped in some sort of manic elevator. The air shrieks. I close my eyes and clamp my jaw shut to keep from shrieking with it. There's a tremor, and then we're plummeting. My hand grips out and clutches the first solid thing it finds. My head's about to pull right off my neck. My lungs are squeezed tight. We stop with a jerk. The shrieking fades from my ears, leaving only a faint ringing. It's Wynn's elbow I'm clinging to. I open my eyes and shut them again, fighting the urge to vomit. Okay. This is definitely not just a tablecloth. Sorry, Wynn says. It's always awful the first time. I draw air in and gradually expel it. The various parts of my body settle back into their proper places. I sneak a peek at him. It gets better? He cracks a smile. Hard to say, but once you see where you can go, you stop caring. Where you can go. I risk a look around. The walls are dark except for a rectangle of yellow light ahead of us. Indistinct figures ripple across it. I don't know where we are now, but it doesn't look like the rooftop. Ready? Wynne asks. I shouldn't have agreed to this if I weren't. Ready, I say, without giving myself a chance to rethink it. He draws open the cloth. The light hits me first, brilliant sun glancing off sand-strewn ground. The sluggish air wafts over me, tangy with sweat and something putridly metallic. Blood, I realize as my vision adjusts. Dark patches swim into focus just beyond the stone passageway that shelters Wynne and me. A figure in thin bronze armor dashes past the entrance, spear raised. Farther out across the arena, shapes of animals and men writhe and break apart. Shouts echo against the high walls, which are painted a beige and red that match the gore-splattered sand. Cheers rain down from above. Someone over a shadowy doorway is stomping their feet. I gulp a breath. Grip prickles against the back of my mouth. The Amphitheatrum Flavium, Wynne intones beside me, April 6, 81 AD. It's warm. Sweat is trickling down my back under my jacket. I reach past the flap of the cloth to touch the passage wall. The stone is rough under my fingers. Solid. Real. How can it be real? Less than 30 feet away, a rhinoceros charges into a cluster of gladiators, tossing one to the side with guts spilling from a gaping belly wound. Wynne grimaces. A dagger soars from beyond my view and strikes the rhino in the shoulder. A leopard stalks past, shooting a narrow glance into our doorway. I jerk back into the shelter of the cloth. As the leopard pads toward us, a rumbling starts somewhere down the passage behind us. We're trapped, surrounded by noise and violence and history. Take me back, I hear myself saying raggedly over the thudding of my heart. I want to go back now. The words are hardly out of my mouth when a shower of arrows splits through the air. One impales the leopard's haunches, another clatters against the stones, and a third is shooting straight toward us. I cringe against the side of the cloth as Wynne yanks the flaps together. There's a thunk and a patter as the arrow rebounds off the fabric. Too close. I squeeze my eyes shut. Take me back. We're already moving. That whirling, jostling feeling sweeps around us again. I press my arms around my head and count the frantic beats of my pulse. We land with a quiver. The cloth slaps apart. A dusky light touches my face with a whisper of breeze, and I look up. The roof of the hotel is there to meet me. I wobble out. The concrete feels firm beneath my feet. The air is cool and moist again. But I can still see the gutted gladiator falling, still taste the salty grit on my tongue, still hear the hiss of the arrow that almost hit us. I inhale, exhale, trying to flush the smell of pain and death from my lungs. We were really there, I say. We traveled back in time. Yes, Wynne says. Do you believe me now? As he folds up the cloth and slides it into his satchel, I sink down onto one of the patio chairs, running my fingers through my sweat-dampened hair. Distantly, I notice I can bend my left arm now, though the elbow joint is still tingly. I was just in ancient Rome, 81 AD. And what about the rest? Wynne has come from the planet of Chemia? Aliens have been altering Earth's history for centuries, millennia? They're looking down at us right now, at my planet in their goldfish bowl? I died yesterday?